Hi, it's Ramsey Dewey with the JX Fight Club in Shanghai, China, and I have a question today about steroids. I was asked, Ramsey, why do fighters take steroids? It's not like they're trying to get bigger and go up a weight class. Because if you put on extra muscle mass, that means extra weight, and therefore you'd have to fight at a higher weight class, and it would just make everything more complicated. And yeah, that's true, but that's not why fighters take steroids. Okay, now, I do not endorse performance-enhancing drugs. Right? If you're going to play a sport, play by the rules. Okay? I do not take performance-enhancing drugs. Never have. Okay? I've been accused of it. I don't know why, because I'm not that big of a guy. But, you know, everybody stronger than you is on steroids, as the internet says. Okay. So why do fighters take steroids if they're not trying to bulk up necessarily? Well, very simple. What steroids do is they allow you to heal faster. Okay? They decrease your recovery time. So the reason bodybuilders take them to get bigger is because effectively it cuts their recovery time in half. When you work out, when you lift weights, it creates little micro tears in the muscles, and it takes time for that to heal, to grow back bigger and stronger. And so bodybuilders who take anabolic steroids are able to do twice the lifting in half the time, and so they get twice the gains effectively. That's the theory behind it. So, why do fighters do it? Because again, they're not trying to bulk up. I mean, we even heard about, what's his name, Royce Gracie back in the day. Royce Gracie, the little guy in UFC 1 who showed that small man's Jiu-Jitsu can beat much larger, stronger opponents, you know, with superior grappling skills. And at some point he was fighting in Japan and he got busted for taking steroids, and this shocked the world because Royce is not a big guy and he's not muscular, and it was almost laughable that he was accused of taking steroids because his technique wasn't relying on, you know, big strong muscles, but rather, you know, weight and leverage and that sort of thing. Right? So why was Royce using that stuff? And John Jones. This question was directed to me specifically about the recent news with John Jones. He got busted for using some form of steroid, of performance-enhancing drug again. Why? Why do they risk their careers to do that? That's a good question, okay? But it's got a simple answer. When you're a fighter, you train all the time, okay? And you must become an expert in striking and grappling and wrestling and jiu-jitsu and all disciplines and all ranges of combat. And that takes time. That kind of training is a lot of wear and tear on the body and often results in frequent injuries. Man, I got to tell you, when I was fighting professionally, I never once had a fight where I didn't go in with an injury. And that's the norm, not the exception. I mean, most fighters are going in injured in some way, shape, or form. They're not going in 100% most of the time. It's very rare you'll see that, okay? Because, you know, with all the technique and training and strength and conditioning and sparring and accidents that can happen because, you know, you got human beings piled on top of you working against you, gravity and pressure and weight and destructive force and violence, and that takes a toll on your body. And so the idea that I can recover twice as fast and do twice the training and, you know, be less susceptible to injury, and if I get injured, I will heal faster, etc., that's a very appealing idea to a fighter. So why do these guys at the very top do it? Well, I guess the same reason athletes in any sport at the very top do it. I mean, you see baseball players, for example, and this is a really interesting case to me. Baseball players getting busted for steroid use. And again, baseball is an interesting sport in this regard because you don't have to be a super big, strong guy to be good at baseball, right? Because no matter how big your muscles are, if you don't have the hand-eye coordination to hit that ball with the bat, you'll never score a point, right? Or if you're a pitcher, if you don't understand the technique of throwing a ball, forget about it. You're never going to strike anybody out, okay? But these athletes understand that this extra strength is not a replacement for their technique, it augments it. And so when millions of dollars, $1 million contracts are on the line, some of them are willing to risk that for that little extra edge. Okay? Now, again, I would say in training, most injuries in MMA come during training, not during actual fights. I mean, I only had one serious injury in a fight, which was, skull fractures, and that was from, blatant cheating, wrapping the hands, loaded wraps, illegal stuff on the fists, and that's something that shouldn't have ever happened in the fight anyway, right? But in the gym, man, I've had all kinds of injuries in the gym. And yeah, I've had bumps and bruises. I think I broke a toe in fighting, cuts, lacerations, and whatnot. But like serious injuries, most of those happen in the gym. Right? In the gym, I've seen people tear their ACLs and have their legs bent in backwards and break bones and just get seriously messed up. Fortunately, not too often here at my gym, but over the course of many years of training, man, I've seen some bad gym injuries. And it's not just how bad they are, it's how often they happen. Right? Even bumps and bruises in the gym, if that's happening every single day. Yeah, I understand. I don't justify why they take the steroids, but I understand why they do it, right? Because they want to stay in the game. They want to get back to the gym the next day and train again at a high level and feel good and be able to recover, get back to 100% and do it again the next day so that they can get better and better and better and better and better. And effectively do what the bodybuilders are doing, get twice the gains in half the time. Okay? Now, we're not necessarily talking about strength gains, but knowledge and experience gains. Yeah, knowledge and experience gains, that's huge in fighting, right? If you want to get good at Jiu-Jitsu, for example, it's really, really simple, right? A lot of people ask me, how do I get good at Jiu-Jitsu? And the answer is, well, you roll 1,000,000 times, you tap out 1,000,000 times, you spend 1,000,000 hours on the mat, and then you get a lot better, right? It's technically pretty easy to get a belt in a martial art. Keep showing up consistently, and eventually they have to give it to you. Okay? I'm not saying it's not hard, but that consistency is what gives you those gains in knowledge, experience, strength, or whatever your goal is. Okay? Now imagine you want to get good at Jiu-Jitsu, you want to become a black belt, and so you're trying to make it to the gym every day, you're trying to go 6 times a week, something like that. Okay? But then you get injured. Or you wake up the next morning and you just feel terrible and you're like, oh, everything hurts and I can't move, I can't get out of bed, can't go train today. Yeah. So you don't get that 6 days a week, maybe you only get 3, right? And so you're probably not going to develop as fast as the guy who can make it to the gym 6 days a week. Oh, for those of you who don't know, in China, they count numbers a little differently. This is 6, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? 6 days a week. So where does that leave you? Oh man, but what if there was a magic pill that you could take so you could get out of bed feeling good or recover a little faster and not feel like garbage and crawl over to the gym like a zombie or miss training and you could get there 6 days a week easy? Would you take that pill? Now, I'm not saying you should, because again, I don't recommend performance-enhancing drugs. I mean, my goal is find the limitations of my body, and I have not found them yet. Okay, find the connection between the mind, the body, and the spirit, and that is a tremendous potential that I don't think any human being has ever tapped yet, regardless of how close we've come. And man, long story short, that is why fighters take steroids, so they can do more, so they can recover faster, so they can become better fighters, in theory. Okay? I love what Rod Serling said. Rod Serling, the host of the Twilight Zone. He wrote a lot of the episodes. He was a writer. Gave some workshops and lectures on the art of writing. And he said, if you need drugs to be a good writer, then you're not a good writer. And, you know, back in his day, people, I think it was around the 1960s, 70s, there was this big cultural upheaval about public opinion on drugs. A lot of people felt like if you took psychotropic, psychedelic drugs, that it would open up your mind and make you a better artist and make you more of what you are, whatever. And I don't know. I don't know what to make about that, because again, I don't do drugs. Not performance-enhancing drugs, not psychedelic drugs. None. Don't smoke, don't drink, don't even drink coffee or tea. Okay? Not even caffeine, right? So, Rod Serling countered that. If you need drugs to be a good writer, then you're not a good writer. Because he understood something, right? Creativity, that's something inside of you. It doesn't come from an external source that you put inside of you. So I like that, and I apply that philosophy to fighting. If you need drugs to be a good fighter, then you're not a good fighter. Okay? Might be a very entertaining piece of television, but not a good fighter, ultimately. Anyway, thanks for watching. Get out there and train. Don't do drugs, kids.